Over the past few years, statistics have shown a significant and startling rise in the number of children diagnosed with autism. But there's also been what some are calling an unexpected breakthrough in the disorder. It's happened quietly with just a handful of children, but it could have profound implications for nearly 500,000 children in the U.S. alone. They are kids with autism, children many presumed are mentally retarded or locked in their own world, unable to communicate or even to think for themselves. That was the prevailing view of autism until now. Tonight we'll introduce you again to the remarkable people who are breaking the silence of autism, a silence that led one couple on a desperate search for a cure.
It's like sometime between your baby's first and second birthday, somebody sneaks into your house late at night, and they steal his mind and his personality, and they leave his body behind.
For Hollywood producer John Shestak and his wife Portia Iverson, it was like something from a horror film.
Hi, Dove.
Like most children with autism, their son Dove appeared to be developing normally.
Ow!
A happy baby, learning to speak.
Hello!
Then, at around 18 months, he lost the few words he had, stopped answering to his name, and disappeared into the frightening world of autism.
I felt so helpless to help him, and yet every minute, every day I saw him getting further and further out of my grasp, and there was no expert out there to stop it.
Dove, say hi, it's your birthday.
Although there are varying degrees of autism, John and Portia were told their son had the most severe form. They were told he would never speak and probably was mentally retarded. Doctors said there was nothing Portia and John could do for him except give him constant care and get on with their lives. Now, age 10, the only sounds Dove makes are unintelligible. His behavior is filled with uncontrollable movements called stimming or self-stimulation.
People don't want to do stuff with you out here if all you want to do is stim, okay?
How frustrated were you?
The worst times, were when he was in pain of some kind and we couldn't figure out, was it a toothache, was it a stomach ache, did he have appendicitis, did he break a bone, and he couldn't tell us.
That's pretty helpless, and everything in you is saying, like, you gotta help him, fix him, make him feel better, and you don't even know where to start.
We wait for the feds to sort of actually make it.
Portia and John were told there was no cure and that there were very few scientists even doing autism research. So they formed a research foundation called CAN, Cure Autism Now.
That's a huge amount of work.
In just 7 years, they've raised close to $20 million, making CAN the largest private supporter of autism research in the country. But their biggest breakthrough didn't come in a lab. It came from a boy their foundation brought over from India, a boy who seemed very much like their own son, but with some dramatic differences. This child is challenging every assumption about autism, turning the world of Portia and John and thousands of other parents like them upside down. His name is Tito Mukhopadhyay, seen here when he was 10. Like Dove, he's severely autistic. He too is almost mute and has little control over his body. Now 14, Tito still exhibits all the same symptoms of autism, but he's doing what doctors, researchers, and most parents of autistic children once thought impossible. He has learned to write eloquently and independently about what it's like to be trapped in an autistic body.
I was able to ask Tito things I always wanted to ask my own son, Dove. Why do you flap? Why do you rock? Why can't you look in my eyes? And Tito could answer all these questions.
Through his writing, he told her he flaps his arms because otherwise he can't feel his body. He avoids eye contact because it's difficult for him to see and hear at the same time. What do you think the biggest misperception is that people have of people with autism?
So,
what we are seeing in Tito is unprecedented. By definition, people with severe autism have trouble with language, a notion that Tito shatters every time he puts pen to paper. That they don't have any understanding? Any understanding of what? Of anything. When you first met Tito, were you skeptical?
The nature of a scientist is to be skeptical. So I was certainly surprised when I met him to see the very compelling evidence that he was for real.
Dr. Michael Merznick has been studying Tito for more than a year. A neuroscientist at the University of California, San Francisco, he says Tito is not only authentic, but miraculous.
There can be little question in the writing behavior of Tito that he's providing the answers and that the answers are coming from his brain.
If Tito seems a miracle of autism, this is the miracle worker, his mother Soma, who gave up a career in chemistry to devote her life to teaching her son, even though doctors in India said he would never be able to learn.
At first they told us he was mentally retarded because he looked that, because he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing what his age level, a 3-year-old child should do. He did not respond, he did not do anything.
Yes. Were you told how to teach him?
No.
What were you told?
To keep him busy. Come, run.
And she's been keeping him busy ever since.
5% square over here. Here. If you don't look, where's it?
As a young child, she noticed he was staring at calendars, so she started teaching him numbers and letters.
What are the factors of 6? Say the probably times.
When he wouldn't hold a pencil, she used a rubber band to tie one to his finger and taught him to draw lines and eventually to write.
No, why is it coming down the line?
If her method looks simple, just ask parents of other severely autistic children. They'll tell you that at one time or another, they too tried to get their child to type or communicate with no success. But Soma's method requires tenacity.
Read the F properly. Write it again. No one will be able to read that.
For the past 11 years, this tireless taskmaster has spent every waking moment talking and teaching.
Hey, now look at this. Oh, look at that.
Constantly prodding.
You're not even looking.
To keep Tito stimulated.
We're going to put our nails over here. How will that look?
And his mind on track.
Look at that. No, not like that.
What if you slacked off? What would happen, do you think?
No, I did not, so I don't know. I can't even imagine myself doing that, yeah.
Her determination and her assumptions about Tito may have made all the difference.
Where?
She never doubted that he could learn.
1, 2, 3, no.
So she fed him a healthy diet of knowledge, from Shakespeare to geometry to music. Tito, without your mother pushing you, how would your life have been different?
I would have having been of I would have been a vegetable.
I would have been a vegetable? So it's a good thing that she pushed.
Yes.
He said he'd be a vegetable.
I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Though Tito seems to have escaped that fate through his writing, he remains severely autistic. He can't even pick up the pad and pencil to write without his mother's constant prodding and urging.
Right.
But when Tito does write, it is with astonishing insight, especially for a boy just 14 years old. He's written hundreds of poems, including this one, which we watched him write from beginning to end.
I have fancied a little dream, and the world is left unseen. With the light of your eyes, through the darkness of the night, I have held that little dream, beyond my world, beyond all scenes.
Tito is a beautiful example of the possible. Here we have a boy that, largely through the empirical interaction of this boy with his mother, a way has been found into his ability, into his spirit.
Do you think that Tito is just one in a million?
I think there could be thousands of, maybe tens of thousands of Titos out there.
Scientists will soon find out if that's true. For the past year, Soma's been testing her homegrown methods on a small group of children at the Carousel School in Los Angeles, the school attended by John and Portia's son, Dove.
Yeah, Dove.
Like Tito, these 9 and 10-year-olds are severely autistic. Few can speak, and until recently, teachers had no idea if anything was actually getting through.
Who were the Native Americans there at the time?
Now they know.
Yes.
In the space of a year, Kids who were being taught on a kindergarten level are now being taught math, social studies, and science like fourth graders.
I had obviously never seen anything like this in my life.
Karen Spratt was their teacher. She had been trained in applied behavioral analysis, a treatment which has been very effective in teaching children with autism. Spratt says she was skeptical since Soma's techniques seemed to defy most of the principles of ABA.
Soma did everything that I was told not to do, kind of, as a teacher. So, for instance, she talked constantly.
The sun rises in the east or north. Pick up.
And that's the exact opposite of everything that you had been taught?
It is. In my training, it was that you give basic directions and wait for a response, and not to verbalize too much because it could be distracting.
If 26 plus 2 is 38...
Instead of being distracting, Soma's rapid prompting method, as she calls it, seems to keep the children's attention focused long enough for them to communicate.
Pick up 98. Good.
She ignores their erratic movements and wandering eyes and focuses instead on the mind locked inside.
Right line or the lines of longitude? No, it is the line of longitude. Now tell me.
Did you ever second guess your approach? Everything? Maybe this isn't right?
No. I'm always sure of myself, what I'm doing.
Why?
Because it works. It works.
And she offers some astonishing proof.
Tell me, what do you like best in this?
Dove Shestak was one of her first students, since it was his parents, Portia and John, whose foundation brought Soma to the United States. But they never expected this.
Math, yes? You like math? We can do some math over here to show up.
After years of trying nearly every technique available for autistic children, his parents were astonished. Within 6 weeks of working with Soma, suddenly came full sentences, complex thoughts, and words spelled correctly.
It is a flower, and that's a bulb. The best way I can put this is, it seemed like I was seeing the kid that had disappeared 7 years before, and suddenly, it wasn't just the one word or gesture I was able to get. It was whole sentences and ideas.
Keep going, I know what you mean, but finish it up.
I was like a kid in a candy shop. I didn't know where to start. What's your favorite color? What do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, all the questions you asked a child over years. Every day there was whole new sets of things I was finding out.
Hey, Dove, tell me, why do you like math so much?
They learned that Dove is interested in religion and history and is a surprisingly good mathematician.
Why? It's easy.
We asked Dove how he had learned so much when no one had formally taught him.
L. I. Come on, go ahead, come on.
He told us that all those years when people thought he was lost in his own world, he was actually listening to everything around him. You learn to spell and you learn to do math. Although Soma's method has not been studied scientifically, Mike Merznick is one of many researchers who think it should be taken seriously.
I think it's almost certain that this method can be used with many, many autistic children. And the initial indication from these studies in Los Angeles is that it might apply even to the substantial majority of these children.
That they might be helped by this method, by someone prodding them and telling them, think, do, act.
Exactly.
Scientists can't help but wonder what other secrets Tito, Dove, and others like them still hold. Are you happier now?
Why?
But one thing is certain. The ability to communicate has had a profound effect on Dove's life. Yes. He's happier now, and you don't have to be a scientist to understand why.
S.
I can tell others my feelings. That's why you're happy. After our report aired in January, Cure Autism Now received thousands of letters from families asking Soma to work with their children. Since then, she's worked individually with some 70 kids with autism, and the results, parents tell us, have been remarkable. Soma and Portia are now finishing a manual that will teach others how to use the rapid prompting method.